Not a matter of if, but when crisis will rock your world. I'm Roshini Rajkumar, crisis strategist, licensed attorney, and host of The Crisis Files. In each case file, we myth bust with inspirational people who are leading in their spaces. What if you learned you had a spinal condition in your teens, which got progressively worse? In spite of that diagnosis, you became a business owner and award-winning chef. Then one day, you had to step away. Karyn Tomlinson is chef owner of Myriel and the 2025 James Beard Midwest Best Chef. She's here for the case file I call Body of Work. Chef Tomlinson, you found out at age 14 you had scoliosis. How did you live with it, and what was that like?
Yeah, I was 14 years old, just getting into high school. I was starting a new school, and I actually, now that I look back, I realize I just want to give my 14-year-old self a hug. I had short hair, glasses, braces, and a back brace. So I wore a back brace for a year. The doctors thought that would slow down the curve and maybe even make it better, and it did. I was kind of a success story. Gillette Children's Hospital even had my story in their little newsletter. But I really embraced kind of a resilience. I saw it not as an option to deal with. I just had to deal with it. And I don't remember being too torn up about it when I was 14. I just thought, okay, this is what I have to deal with. And I had a lot of energy. I was interested in school. I was interested in a lot of things. So it didn't really get me down too much.
Was there ever a point where you didn't do X, Y, or Z because of this condition?
I don't remember that so much when I was that age. It didn't really hurt me so much. It was just, I just knew that I couldn't let it get worse. And I had to wear a brace all day, every day for a while, but I could take it off for playing sports. Although at the time, all I did was golf. I was on the high school golf
You weren't
team.
doing any rugby, so to speak. Yeah.
I was scared enough moving from a small private school to a big public school to join, soccer or something like that. So that was kind of a non-issue for me. But it was more, I just felt awkward a little bit in my own body at such an awkward time of life anyway, especially for young women. And so I think that's more of what I had to deal with.
So you're living life, but then by the time you get into your mid-30s, there was a dramatic change.
Yeah. I started to feel that maybe something was shifting in my upper 20s, but I wasn't sure. I remember going to see a doctor. They said, yeah, your curve is a little bit worse. It had stabilized. By the time I was done with a brace and by the end of high school, when they were monitoring me, they said, wow, you look really great. This is really stable. Once again, success story. But in my 20s, I just felt like it might be getting a little bit off again. And I remember waking up on my, 34th birthday or 35th birthday and feeling a sense of feeling pain and actually just thinking, I'm 35. Is life going to continue to be this way? I think I realized that I was thinking in the mindset of somebody much older than I actually was, that I was preparing to kind of be winding down physically at that point.
And for people who don't know and who aren't familiar with your illustrious chef career, food career, where were you in the journey of the restaurant and the food and your amazing life as a chef at this point when this 35th birthday happened?
I think I had just opened Myriel. I believe it was, I think that's the math. Actually, or it was right before I opened Myriel, and we were building it out and doing takeout. And so I was hustling, I was working really hard, but I was just feeling more pain. I was feeling just fatigued. I was starting to think of my life as having more limitations than I was used to, feeling a little bit more protective of my body. And I thought, wow, this is going to be a long road ahead if it's only going to keep getting worse. But I talked to different surgeons. On top of a busy schedule, it's so hard to find different doctors, to get opinions. I had so many opinions on different things to do to help my back, different natural methods, all of these things. But over time, I just felt like I was losing a battle. And that was all happening at the same time as building this restaurant.
Right. And so here you are, just like what should be the height at that point in your career. You've even gone on to bigger things. Opening this restaurant, you have a staff, you have new customers, you've got all the issues that a business owner has when you have a restaurant. And then your body is breaking down on you, basically. So your spine is just not standing up with you.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Because you don't want to shut down the restaurant. Did they give you many options?
The doctors I saw, the first couple of surgeons I spoke with actually said, you seem really functional. So I wouldn't, it would be a really extreme surgery that
so
you
kind of
would
live
need.
with it is what the doctors were saying.
Live with it. And also one doctor even told me, science is never going to figure out anything in your lifetime to make this better.
Oh, wow. Bad bedside manner.
Yes, definitely. I know surgeons are not known for having the best, but that was pretty demoralizing when I heard that. And so I kept trying alternative options, seeing chiropractors. I even got an adult back brace for a while, which was so painful. I remember flying to New York and trying to wear it on the flight to New York and actually having being rubbed raw by this brace and just thinking, I can't do this. It doesn't work. And no matter what these surgeons are saying, I know that this is getting worse and I can't really just live with that. And I want to be able to use my body the best that I can for whatever years I have left. I want to be able to steward my body well, and to be able to work hard and not be afraid of working hard, even physically.
So we are talking as we head into Thanksgiving holiday of 2025. And just a few months ago, in July of 2025, you underwent this major surgery.
Yes.
It's amazing to see you sitting here like this today.
So finally, I connected with an incredible doctor who just seemed to kind of get me to see. He saw my work ethic, my drive, he saw that I'm very determined and capable physically, but finally said, yeah, you're right. You're in the minority. This has gotten worse in your 30s. There's probably some underlying joint thing that it's making that way, but it's not a matter of if, but when you're going to need this surgery. And I said, well, wouldn't it make sense to do it before I'm much older? And he said, well, yes, it would. So I decided once I realized that was in my future, I wanted to get it done as soon as I could. And thankfully, I had such an incredible team at the restaurant, and I was really transparent with them this whole time as I was pursuing these options, giving them a heads up that there might be something that I would need to do about my back. And they were all very supportive, but finally had a date. And it happened to be a month after the James Beard Award, which was crazy.
So here you are, you're winning one of the best awards in your industry, just about to go into this big surgery.
Right. And so in some ways, it was the worst timing and the best timing. For my team, we were just busy. There are only so many people you can fit into a small restaurant, but the demand was just like that after the awards. And so it put a lot on them to not only maintain what was going on, but to deal with a higher volume. But in some ways, it was great because everybody's motivated after a big award. We just had a really stable team at that point. And I think it was just, a really good time for me to step aside and acknowledge the fact that, yes, this award does have to do with a lot of hard work that I've put in, but it also has to do with this incredible team who is doing this every single day. And it just kind of underscored that for me to be gone for this surgery.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted you to come on the Crisis Files is we are an inspirational show, but we are a crisis solution, crisis busting kind of show. And as you said, not a matter of if, but when you needed that surgery, but not a matter of if, but when you ran a business and a team that allowed you to step away for the surgery and for some of the recovery. What can you tell us about what goes into not only your good team, but some of what you have taught and believe is good teamwork?
Yeah, what's interesting is, once this was starting to become a reality to me, it really, I had been building the team, since we opened. I had been trying to make it a smoothly running operation that didn't depend on me for everything. But it's so funny, unless we're confronted with a moment where we actually can't be there doing what we normally do, it's really easy to kind of hang on to certain things, hang on to control of certain things, and not just because you're controlling, but maybe because you think, well, this is a way that I can serve the team, that I can help everybody. But there were certain things like that only I was doing. And so it forced me to identify those things and to methodically hand that off to other people. One of those things was, I had been going out to the farms. I was the primary contact working with our farmers where we source our food, literally going out, physically going out to the farms once or twice a week to pick things up, to go foraging, to interact with our farmers and plan for the next season, that sort of thing. That was just my domain. And it seemed like a big ask, too. It's not a normal thing for restaurants to do that. And so,
you probably loved that part of your job.
And that, too. It motivated me, and then I would come back with stories for the teams that would motivate them. But it was a lot to ask anybody to literally drive out there and do that, too. But having my surgery forced me to figure out a different way of doing that and allowed my team to step up and to do those things as well. It made for more complicated communications. We're still figuring that out in a lot of ways. But the cool thing is they had access to that point of inspiration in a whole different way because I had stepped aside. And then they were able to be motivated by those people. And really, I think the amount of buy-in to our vision and values just went up because of that.
Yeah, and so you were forced to do succession planning,
Yes.
not because you were leaving forever.
Right.
But, thank goodness the surgery went well. What if it had not? It's a whole other thing, and luckily we don't have to have that conversation.
Right.
But you were forced into succession planning, so it's a good lesson for everyone out there who leads a team, runs a business, regardless of what level, even if it's a small team, even if it's your household. What happens when you have to step away? Who steps into those things that only you did before? And I work with executives all the time, and we're talking about succession planning all the time. But you were forced into it. And because of that, your whole team, not only you, but your whole team comes out ahead.
Can I just add something about that, too? One thing I think it's really tempting, it's easy to be fearful when you're thinking about succession planning, especially if there's the possibility of you returning, if it's a temporary thing. Although I went into my surgery thinking, maybe I won't walk again, And so that was a reality, too, that I had to think about. Or maybe, even worse. But if all went well, I knew that I would likely be able to return physically to my business and would need to be productive there. And the fear is that, well, if I set everybody else up to do what I'm doing, will I have worked myself out of a job? And it's so interesting. And there's so many identity things involved in that we could talk about later. But
for another case.
Yes.
Wow.
But I think for me, it's been really interesting because it's forced me into a role that probably is better to begin with now that I'm getting back into the restaurant a little bit more. And the emphasis is more on leadership, coaching, helping other people to be better leaders, really working on the business rather than in the business. And that this deadline, this physical challenge has kind of forced me into that way of thinking that is probably better for the business anyway.
Right. And we call this case file body of work kind of a double, triple meaning in that because there's so much about your physical body, your lifelong, career-long journey as a chef, and now really as an executive chef because you are the overseer, you're that big brand ambassador, but you understand you can't do every layer of this.
Right.
And in fact, the entire restaurant and all that you do that are offshoots of your restaurant are going to come out even ahead. This is fabulous. Well, I'm a big foodie, love your restaurant, love what you put out there. And it's really been a decade or more of the chef owner. Everybody, wants to be a chef, wants to be a gourmet in their kitchen. I can't let you go without getting some of that inside track for crisis filers. What do you see in food? What do you see in ingredients?
I think that it's interesting. COVID is really, post-COVID dining is an interesting time. I think the realities of running a business in the food world are very challenging. There's a lot of buzz, a lot of talk about that in the Twin Cities right now. But it's important. We need to connect together over food as humans. That will never go away, I believe. Even though Star Trek predicted those things that make your food for you, that you just pop out.
Pop them in and it comes out. Yeah.
Whatever.
I really need that because I am not you in any way.
But I think the robots won't totally take over this part of our world. Right. But we need that physical contact. But dining can look a lot of different ways, and the way that we interact around food is different. What I think is something that we can feasibly move towards is more connection to where our food comes from. It's something that we really care about at Myriel. I think that as a diner, intentional dining, whether you're being really mindful about what you're buying, how you're eating at home, and then when you go out, it's not just out of convenience. It's not just meal replacement, but it's for the experience, and you're able to put your dollars towards places that you want to support, that are doing cool things in the community, that are affecting our food system in a positive way, that sort of thing. So that's kind of what I get excited about. And I'm seeing more people create businesses around that too, like different kinds of catering or food adjacent businesses. I think there are lots of ways to tap into and explore creativity in the food realm that don't necessarily just look like a brick and mortar restaurant. I can say that because I have one.
Yes, you can.
But that's a wonderful and amazing and necessary thing too. But I think that we're entering an exciting time where there's a lot of opportunity for creativity in that space.
Well, you have called food an artistic expression, and it definitely is. And dining is really social expression, and where we choose to dine when we go out, how we choose to dine when we cook, when we stay in, or gather at other people's homes. That's very much expressing love and other good things. Well, we wish you huge luck and continued success. Congrats again on the James Beard.
Thank you so much.
Very, very exciting. Connect with this amazing chef and her team directly on Instagram at K.A. Tomlinson, as well as at the restaurant at Myriel, M.N. These are both on Instagram, MYRIELMN. Today's case file is powered by Petal & Stem. Known as an aging architect, Dr. Deepa Pai focuses on elevating the standard of care in the medical aesthetics industry. Clients from all over the United States visit Dr. Pai for her customized offerings. Petal & Stem is one of the only med spas in the U.S. to use a hospital-grade ultrasound machine. For a customized skin treatment journey, and to see why Dr. Pai and team have clients getting on a plane for their expertise, go to petalstemmedspa.com. Rate, review, and subscribe to The Crisis Files on your platform of choice. Follow us on YouTube and Instagram at The Crisis Files. Visit thecrisisfiles.com for all 4 seasons of the show. I'm Roshini Rajkumar. Join me next time on The Crisis Files.